Hi, I'm John Tyson. I'm here with Pete Rose at Amherst College a few days after Pete's performance. Pete, great to have you here.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for an amazing and wonderful program. Could you tell us a little bit about the whole program itself? You were talking about that you frequently construct your programs like in an art form.
Recently, I've come to the conclusion that programs have to have a structure just as a piece of music has to have a structure. It has to work towards something and away from something. And so I've been using the art form format, which means that the program progresses from one type of piece through a series to a mid piece, and then each of the pieces following would have the same kind of essences in reverse order to the beginning, working toward the midpoint. I've thought about possibly constructing concerts in other forms analogous to musical compositional forms, because I just see a randomness in the normal way that programs are put together, and I felt that a program should have a structure just like a composition. That's what I really was looking for, you know. And so most of my concerts recently have been in some kind of form, and most art form I use because I think that's a pretty easy and pretty rational kind of form.
It's wonderful having that much variety in what we sometimes think of as a narrow repertoire. We got solo recorder, we got all contemporary music, but hearing your improvisations, your compositions, the jazz, it makes for a great variety, and it's wonderful to hear. Can you tell us really where you're coming from with this, why you're a contemporary recorder player, why this is the music you want to do?
I don't think I can tell you why. It's just that, you know, I do what I think expresses what I feel, and that kind of includes pretty much a broad range of music. I guess I've been exposed to a lot of different kinds of music. I think American musicians in particular are very polyglot in terms of their exposure to music. So I think like any other musician really, but just in my own personal way, I've taken those pieces of things from everything that I've been exposed to that mean the most to me, and sort of reinvented them in my way, and I'm putting that out. And you know, it happens to fall within a pretty broad range, because I think I've just had a broad range of musical experiences. That's, you know, but as far as picking a piece is concerned, I think it's very simple as to why I play this piece and don't play that piece. I like this piece, I don't like that piece. It's that fundamental. Didn't even know what a recorder was, really.
How did you start on recorder then?
Well, let's see. Going back a ways now, to the time frame around 1967, I got interested in world music. A lot of jazz was moving in that direction. One of the first musicians that I heard move sort of in that direction was a multi-instrumentalist, a woodwind player, played sax and flute, oboe, and incorporated a lot of ethnic instruments too. His name is Yusef Lateef, and John Coltrane really was my main influence, like on tenor, but he was moving in that direction too, to a degree. Some of his titles of his compositions, like India, you know, and Brasilia, they show definitely the impact world music was having on him. But by 1967, I really come across the real thing. Someone had lent me a record called Man's Early Musical Instruments, and I was really fascinated. And shortly after that, I was at a friend's house, and I saw this little Fipple flute, as it turned out, lying in his kid's toy box. I just freaked out over it. It was such a beautiful looking thing, and when I played it, the sound of it just freaked me out too. So he just gave it to me right on the spot. because, you know, as a kid was just banging it around, sort of. It was an instrument called a gadinka, and it was a fipple flute, and that's the first fipple flute I ever played. And I collected a lot of them. That Dvořáček that I used on the concert is an instrument that I collected around that time. Actually, as far as the recorder is concerned, I guess that I really got into that in 1972. Somehow around my 30th birthday, possibly as a gift, a birthday gift or something, someone got me a record of the Handel sonatas by Bruggen. And I listened to the A minor sonata, and I really liked the feel of what I was hearing. Not so much the music, it was the way Bruggen played the recorder. And I just felt that was an instrument I could play for fun. At that time, I wasn't really playing any instrument professionally. In fact, I was teaching school, K through 6, vocal music. And I liked the recorder. I liked what I heard on the record, so I bought an alto recorder and I learned that sonata by ear at first. Wow. I was surprised when I got the written score because, you know, half the notes I was playing weren't in the score, and you know, I didn't know what the reason for that was. I remember asking Art Nick at Terminal Music if that was a special edition, reduced, watered down edition for kids. You know, because I didn't know.
Improvising.
Sure. He was doing all kinds of things, and I didn't know that, so I was just emulating him. You know, whatever he played, I played. As you know, but I didn't view it as a modern music instrument initially. I just wanted to play it for fun. And that's when I really started to play. I guess it would be 1972. So that's like 20 years ago. That's right after my 30th birthday.
20 years ago today?
Yeah, I'm going to be 50 next month. No, not next month, October. I'm going to be 50. Don't tell anybody. Yeah, I'd like to comment on that, actually. Speaking personally, whether I'm doing a piece that is written out, or an improvised piece, or some kind of piece that contains elements of both, my feeling about performing that piece, being improvised or written, is pretty much the same. I feel you have to hit a balance between being very prepared. You want to be prepared because you want to give that audience, you feel it's your responsibility to give that audience the best standard of performance that you can give that audience, whatever that will be. So you want to prepare to the hilt, and you want to make sure you have it together. And this includes even improvised pieces. You really want to have that. You want to control, if not the fine details, at the very least the emotive output of that piece. You want to know where it's going. You want a handle on it. Now, at the same time, you don't want to be I don't want to be so fixed that piece is going to be cranked out that way no matter what happens. I mean, you're playing to some people out there. You don't know how they're going to react. And different audiences will react differently. I mean, the spectrum of reaction is enormous. You have to incorporate that in a performance. And there's where your real area of spontaneity is. You have to incorporate that audience into the performance. You have to have a certain degree of flexibility so that you can react to them and make them part of the performance. You draw them into it, you know, incorporate them. And I think, you know, whether I'm doing a piece with all the details set or a piece with none of the details set or something in between, that's always going to be the case. That's why I like performing live, certainly better than I do, you know, in a recording studio. I think, you know, live performance, you can't beat it, really.
Nothing like it.
Nothing like it. That's right.
So in that piece, the right-hand pentatonic variation.
Pentachord.
Pentachord.
Yeah.
What's your motivation then when you're playing it? What's your organization while playing it? Is it a structural? Is it emotional?
Geez, well, As I said, I really didn't conceive that as being any. You know what I wrote that piece for? I was for a demonstration. It was to show that prepared recorder, this little thing I've been toying with. And when I first showed it in a sort of workshop context, with talking to some people, I really didn't have the format for playing it down the way I did at the concert a couple of nights ago. And what happened is, after a couple of performances of it, that's the way it just took shape for me, and that's the way it seemed to have, it seemed to have the right impact and the right feel to do it in that particular way. It's funny because that way is about the most logical, almost numerical way of performing the piece. There's nothing emotional about it. I don't think it's an emotional piece. I think it emanates from an experiment, and the particular format seemed a rational cataloging of the possibilities, and an increase of excitement is always there. And it's, my own fascination with the sounds. I was fascinated to find out that a recorder could produce these very dense sound masses. Just one single wind instrument could.
A little soprano recorder.
Yeah, a little soprano recorder.
Yeah.
And, when you vary the breath pressure a lot, and that last one I do that, it sounds like you got a whole orchestra of primitive fiddle flutes up in the balcony,
It's amazing.
But they're invisible, invisible people playing this, So if you went to somewhere in South America and up on some mountain or something like that, and you said the right intonement, and all these dead fiddle flute players emerged from their graves, and started to play for you. It's a big symphony of a cacophony of fiddle flutes. And the visual thing at the same time is just a guy sitting up there with his little soprano recorder, just moving the fingers in the same pattern over and over again.
It was wonderful. The structure is very clear, but for me it was quite emotional also, to feel that the kind of richness, the kind of gradations of richness that you're getting there, and maybe just your personality, but feeling the range of experience coming through in the phrasing like that. I felt like it was also a very emotional as well as a very structural kind of act there.
Yeah, I can't say honestly that stems from an emotional source. It doesn't really stem from that. It's from feeling. It stemmed entirely from curiosity, fascination with sound, and logical ordering of things. And if some emotion got in there, great.
It still
got in there by the back door.
It's still a human being playing music.
Yeah,
it's still something's coming through there.
Yeah.
And as we were talking about one piece, can we talk about the voice of the crocodile?
Sure.
It's kind of the real kicker here with all the sounds and all that.
That sure is.
Can you tell us how that piece came to be?
Geez, that I don't know. Benjamin Thorne is a recorder player in Australia. I tell you, what best I can do is just tell you how I came across the piece. I wrote to Eve O'Kelly, who is an Irish lady who wrote a wonderful book called The Recorder Today, and said to her, is there anybody around, any place in the world you think I might make contact with, soul brothers, so to speak, And she said, send your stuff to Benjamin Thorne in Australia. And I thought to myself, the only Australian music I ever heard was the white-throated warbler, written for Carl Domich, and I said, Australia, whoa, I didn't, the only thing I knew was that, and, of course I knew about didgeridoo music, which, has like one note in it. So I said, what kind of recorder music? It's, back of the place. So I sent my demo tape to Benjamin, and Benjamin sent me this big package with all this music in it and this tape of all these pieces. And they were fantastic. And that particular one I liked best of all of his stuff.
This is all recorder music?
Yeah, all recorder music. Well, different, for different combinations of things. He's got one that's something about some kind of cuckoo. I forget the name of the title of it, but it's for 8 recorders and a pipe organ, and it's great. The recorder players are like all around the church, and they're like tweedling these little Berg Fancy Delight things and whatnot, these little, and then the organ comes in real foot pedal all the way down, with this is Bach quotation, from these big, Phantom of the Opera type, quotations, big loud, drops out, and you hear a little tweedling recorders around. And then in the middle of the piece, instead of that, Bach, like a Bach quotation, he goes like this. Boom, with the pedal all the way down, and you get this. I could see the audience going right through the ceiling, These big tone clusters, and they're just. I mean, you can't hear the recorders at that point. It's just this big wall of sound hitting you, sustained, long time, and then all of a sudden, off, and the tweedling recorders. I can imagine in a live performance that must be absolutely out of sight. But anyhow, Voice of the Crocodile was the piece that really knocked me on. I knew I could, could play it. I just said I had to touch bases with this music. It's really wonderful. And I started playing, and I guess I'm probably the second person to play it. I mean, he hasn't. I think there's a friend of his that played it also in Australia. Ian. I can't remember his last name. His first name is Ian. But anyhow, I liked the piece so much, I wrote to Gerhard Brown in Germany and said, you ought to get this guy up to your symposium next one you have, And I wrote to Benjamin and said, send your stuff to Gerhard. And Gerhard liked the Voice of the Crocodile so much that he's published it in his Das Blockflöten Repertoire series in Merck. So it's published now.
Do you know why the title and what the vocal sounds are where it's coming from?
The title? Well, Benjamin wrote me a letter. Benjamin is very funny. He's one of these guys, he just came back from Japan. He told me that everything sounds different there. He said the sheep go bad instead of man instead of bad. He's got a big sense of humor. So you have to take what he says with a grain of salt. He said he got it from the Song of Songs. There's a little reference there to the voice of the turtles. Right. And, people have interpreted that as the voice of the turtle doves. But he thought to himself, what if it was the wrong reptile instead? So I think that's how the title emerged for him. As to what those... well, I know, like a crocodile, there's some kind of a lizard thing on the didgeridoo, it's supposed to be a god symbol or something like that for the Aboriginal. And that's all, I've seen that. I have a didgeridoo, and it's got like some kind of a thing like a crocodile painted on it, so maybe that has something to do with it. And of course, the bass recorder looks a little bit like a didgeridoo. And his whole concept of the recorder is a sort of tube, like a tube drum and a tube you sing into.
Make sounds with it.
Yeah, right. And sing into. You heard that piece, the sound in that piece are just out of sight. Mm-hmm. And the way he puts them together and integrates all the materials, that piece really, that piece, that's genius. That
guy's good.
Yeah. Waiting is that's a blues by a piano player named Horace Parlan. Horace Parlan was I'm not following jazz too closely now, so I don't know whether he's too active right now. He's a piano player from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who worked with Charles Mingus for a while, and belonged to a group called the Playhouse Four with tenor saxophone player Stanley Turrentine in the group in the early 60s. He's got kind of an idiosyncratic style, mainly because of his technical limitations. He had polio, I think, when he was young. He has, I think, three functioning fingers on his right hand. Wow. Nice piano player, very, very aesthetic, and was kind of a house piano player for the more conservative artists that recorded for Blue Note Records back in the early 60s. And Waden appeared on an album called Speaking My Piece on Blue Note Records, a Horace Parlan album. And I don't know that I was just fooling around with some things on the blues, and that tune happened to get pop into my head. And I said, gee, this would be a nice thing to start off with because it's so simple. And, you know, I mean, you can't help right from the outset but go someplace with that. You know what I mean? If it were a more complicated head to start with, and, you know, you just, to take it somewhere, you'd be really pressured. But you can just, you know, you can take your time building. You can start very simply, because even as simple as you could play, it's more complicated than that tune. It's just a couple of notes in it, you know. It's not quite C-Jam blues or something like that, but it's a little, just a slight increase over that, let's say. Just a very simple thing. And the blues is a very accessible harmonic form. It's 12 bars, and you can do a lot with substitute changes and you know, superimpositions and stuff. It makes a nice, easy cushion for that modality of improvisation.
Does the piece vary in length in concert a lot?
No, actually, I fixed that. I fixed that piece. I found a solo that I like, and you know, way of doing it that I like, and I pretty much do it the same way. Well, we're getting into that same discussion.
What's
the same way? You know. But for me, it's basically goes pretty much the same way each time. It's more rigid now than I think than some of my things like my other improvised works that are not jazz related, that are more world music influenced. Like my pieces, transitions, have more of a world music influence, and there the details are totally unfixed, I would say. Although the emotive direction of the piece is very, very clear.
So Pete, thank you for a wonderful concert, and we'll keep reading Cutting Edge and finding out what's going on.
All right.
For all of us here.
Take care.
Thanks, man.
All right.